The Candidate is such a heartbreaking episode. I vividly remember the night I watched it, because I attended this event earlier that evening. And then to come home and watch The Candidate at 2 AM, watching it right before going to bed was so emotional. Truly a roller coaster of emotions that evening. Let's analyze some off-screen stuff first. Miles, Richard and Ben have been trekking from the Black Rock to the barracks. In fact, they spent 3 days going there. It's already established that the trek from the beach camp to the barracks is a day and a half.
Pretty much in a straight line for about a day and a half.
Which rings true with what we've seen earlier in the show. What's even more comical is that these 3 people are some of the most knowledgeable people on the island in terms of island's terrain and locations. Miles worked with Dharma for 3 years and drove around. Ben has been here for 35 years, while Richard has been here for over 100 years, and yet they spend so much time. What is going on? One theory I like is that they were originally going to travel to Hyder Island with the Outriggers, this whole team at the beach, and that Ben made sure that there were 2 Outriggers for all 7 of them. But since they all split, Richard suggests that instead of trekking to the barracks for the C4, they turn back to the beach and take the Outrigger. But they see that one of them is missing. They travel and see that the other Outrigger is in front of them. They can spot Men in Black Locke and potentially Sawyer, and one blonde woman who is shooting at them, whom they assume is Claire. At this point, Miles realizes what is going on, and then maybe one of them is shot, and they go inland and treat the wound, and let the island heal it. And by the time it had gone a couple of days, it was all healed up. It might have just grazed one of them on the arm or something, or maybe the Outrigger was pierced with bullet holes, and it sank and they had to swim back to the shore and then dry their clothes. If you don't buy into the Outrigger solution, then maybe they actually got caught in a net, and they were in the net for 2 days, because Rousseau is no longer on the island checking up on the traps, and Claire is at Men in Black's camp. Maybe Vincent came by and managed to chew up the rope, or maybe they were freed by Bernard, or maybe they managed to free themselves after a long time, or just that they managed to pass an area with a strong surge of electromagnetism that suddenly made them jump 3 days forward in time. Or another situation is that something totally different happened on the way that made some changes to their path. Maybe we should have gotten a Miles-centric episode this season, gave him a flashback story from the 3-year time span on the island, or a Flash sideways story. Miles is a main cast member who didn't get a centric episode in season 6. I would have loved a story where they wound up at the Dharma mass grave and Miles became ill due to the amount of voices, and it would lead to a different side adventure involving the ghost of his father. You know, an actor who was in Hawaii around this point in time. Maybe close the character arc for Miles. Maybe the voice and appearance of his father would get rid of the ability to speak to the dead. That could be an idea that would delay their trek to the barracks. I'm open to suggestions, because it seems so weird that these 3 characters would get lost in the jungle for 3 days, but it seems like they were. Anyway, another off-screen trek is done by the remaining others. There's 10 in total who were not at the beach when the missiles hit. Cindy, Zach, Emma, the 2 Temple kids, and 5 other red shirts. I think that as soon as they heard the explosions, they would rush back into the jungle. Said also confirms this on the beach when talking to Jack.
What about the rest of your group? What happened to them?
The ones who weren't killed scattered into the jungle.
They probably waited for a while until Man in Black Locke would come back, but I don't think it did. If the day turned into night and they heard nothing from him, I think they would keep on moving. I'm not sure if they would go back to this camp, since Widmore's team already know about it and have bombed it before, so they could be trekking back to the temple again. The temple others, for instance, this guy, it doesn't look like he was killed in the attack, could assist in burying the bodies that are scattered here. These are after all their friends. Another off-screen trek is Said. When Man in Black Locke returns to his followers and saw that Jack, Sun, Hurley, Lapidus and Claire were missing, he promptly sent Said back to the beach. Remember that the Outrigger we've been using in season 6 is here. Man in Black Locke needs the Outrigger, since he doesn't have the sailboat. Just to summarize their journeys. In Namaste, we see Ben uncover 3 Outriggers. The first Outrigger is used by Sun and Frank in Namaste. Then Frank brings it back to Hydro Island. Then it won't be used until Zoe's team start using it. They use it to get Jin from the main island. Then also when Zoe threatens their camp, the second Outrigger is used by Ben and Man in Black Lock to get to the main island in Dead is Dead. Therefore both 1 and 2 are at the dock this evening, before Lapidus takes 1 away. In an off-screen scene, Man in Black Lock moved the second Outrigger to this beach, because it's no longer there in what Kate does. Then Sawyer uses it to get to and from Hydro Island. Man in Black Lock does the same thing when he visits the place in the package. And therefore this Outrigger needs to be used once again in this episode. The third Outrigger, underneath these palms, might be the cargo Outrigger, with the extra protruding arms. I think it makes sense with the scene in the life and death of Jeremy Bentham.
They're already here. There used to be 3, but the pilot and some woman took one.
That these 2 Outriggers are the ones that Ben unveiled, meaning this one is the second Outrigger, while this is the one they transported the crate with. Therefore, as of now, Said brings the Outrigger, the second one, to this beach. Man in Black Lock and him put the unconscious Jack into it and start to paddle. The first Outrigger, used by Lapidus and then by Zoe's team, is here and will be used 2 episodes from now. Then the cargo Outrigger used to transport the crate is somewhere on the main island, likely close to the cabin. And the fourth Outrigger, the original Outrigger, is somewhere on the island, because the time travelers used it and left it in 1988, so unless nobody touched it for 19 years, it should be here, but honestly it could be anywhere. The reason I bring this up is a small problem I will come back to at the end of this episode. Let's dive in. Widmore's team have taken the candidates and their friends into the cages. Widmore is also here and threatens to kill Kate, since she is not on the list, so he knows about the candidates. Jack awakens on Hydro Island. Said explains that they were attacked, and that all of the others have been killed or fled. Man in Black Lock appears and tells Jack that they need to rescue his friends from Widmore. Said sneaks into the building and manages to find the power switch on a generator, which turns off the fence. Smokey attacks and kills several of Widmore's men, including Seamus. Jack shows up and frees them, and now it's suddenly the next day. It's quite crazy that with this episode having such a heightened pace, like an action movie, the characters all move in a very slow pace. Just like Miles, Richard and Ben, we're spending a long time, while in the first 5 episodes this season, our characters were moving all around the island in record-breaking speed. They're all on Hydro Island, and the night turns into day. And then it's already nighttime by the end of this episode. Smokey has turned back to his human form. He kills the 2 guards, enters the plane and finds the C4. The heroes arrive at the Ajira plane. It's cute to see that Sun and Jin are holding hands, but we've never seen Claire holding hands with Said. That sickness really is cuter than we thought. Man in Black Lock emerges and shows the C4. He suggests commandeering the sub. The group travels there. Arriving at the submarine, Lapidus, Sawyer, Hurley, Sun and Jin get inside and hold the captain hostage. As the rest of the group begins to follow, Man in Black Lock switches backpacks, and as the 2 approach the submarine, Jack shoves him into the water. And this promptly got a lot of the fan community glued in. Is this part of the black smoke? Did the water cause some sort of harm to him and damaged part of the smoke monster, so it created this goo? Maybe that's why he doesn't turn into a smoke monster when attacking Widmore's group. It's a fascinating theory. I'm not really sure, because I think this is part of the backpack straps, and that through the water and the splashes it looks more smoky and gooey. It would be very weird if the VFX team had to digitally add in an effect that nobody would notice for a few frames. Widmore's team ambushes the group. During the gunfight, Man in Black Lock pulls himself from the water, kills some men, and I think it's interesting that he doesn't turn into smoke. Maybe the water did hinder some of his abilities, as if he needs a minute to recharge after being soaked in water. I don't think that the water in itself hurt him, since we see him willingly stand in water here, here, and here, but it might do something. Inside the sub, they discover the bomb. Jack explains to the group
He told me that he could kill any one of us whenever he wanted. So what if he hasn't because he's not allowed to? What if he's trying to get us to kill each other?
Saeed's soul meter has suddenly sparked back to the good side. He's suddenly back to his own self, giving some instructions, and then runs off. Some people were dissatisfied with Saeed's death, especially since it plays into the stereotype of suicide bombers from the Middle East, and that Saeed was a character who challenged the stereotypes from Middle East. Saeed was introduced to the show as a complicated character, a valuable leader with great intuition, experiences, logical thinking, and lovable charm. And I must compliment the show for his inclusion. Introducing a main character from Iraq a year after the US invaded Iraq, with the TV show premiered just shy of the 3-year mark of the September 11th attack, done by the Islamist military organization Al-Qaeda, and then introduce a Muslim with military experiences as one of the heroes of the show is pretty damn impressive for network television. I was a bit dissatisfied with how it all ended with Saeed in season 6, but it does make the episode The Greater Good a very nice foreshadowing.
Listen carefully. There's a well on the main island, half a mile south from the camp we just left. Desmond's inside it. Locke wants him dead, which means you're going to need him, do you understand me?
Why are you telling me this?
Because it's going to be you, Jack.
So many of our characters now towards the end have gotten so close to the thoughts and will of the island, or as Ben famously called it, a communion with the island. I believe Saeed has realized that Jack is the one who will save the island. Saeed is quick at piecing things together, so he's probably already figured out what's about to happen in the next 2 days. That's pretty cool. This shot is quite close, but Saeed has actually his hand on Jack's shoulder when he says it, as if he's passing on his own intuition, his intelligence, and some of his own spark to Jack, so that he'll figure out the whole Cork plan and survive the enormous electromagnetism in the heart of the island. Also, you know how I criticized the visual look of season 6 in this episode, how drab and colorless the episodes are in this season? Well, everything inside the submarine is absolutely fantastic. The stark contrasts are present. The yellow lighting gives off that unease, kinda reminding me of the yellow emergency lighting in the Swan, and it's all gone when the explosion happens. The whole submarine sequence is so wonderfully executed, not just because we see a lot of death and it's action-packed, but it has an amazing build-up, great structure, a distinct color palette, and is technically impressive. Every character gets something to do and say, and it all rings true to their characteristics.
She's still up there.
No, we can't leave without her. We can't.
Okay, she's gonna be okay.
Jack, can't find first aid kit, dude.
Hurley is not the brightest guy on the planet, so of course he doesn't find the clearly visible first aid kit. They make sure that Kate wants to go back for Claire. Lapidus, being the pilot, is of use with a sub-captain. Jin and Sun obviously have that tearful ending. Saeed gets to be his old technological self, and Jack and Sawyer has this amazing dialogue about the bomb. There's so many pitfalls that could end up in an expository detailed dialogue about the rules of Man in Black, but they never fall in those pitfalls. Truly an amazing sequence. And what a production as water begins to fill inside the submarine. Frank climbs down a ladder where a bulkhead suddenly gives way, knocking him out, and we're thinking, did they just kill Frank Lapidus right there and then? And the colors reflect the incredible danger, along with the amazing score by Michael Giacchino. And I love the blinking red light. It's like an open wound that is pulsating. Hurley manages to get Kate out of the submarine. Sawyer is then knocked out by a falling pipe. Jin pleads to Jack to take Sawyer to safety while he continues to try and free Sun. And I absolutely love that their dialogue continues into Korean, at the perfect moment too. And while the music takes over, we get some final shots of the submarine, with that red pulsating light in the background before it cuts to a flash sideways scene. I would have preferred it to cut to that after Jack is looking at the beach instead of after this, but that's nitpicking. Jack, Kate, Hurley and Sawyer have washed ashore, and I've placed the location over here. It's also nighttime again, so that day really flew by. I honestly would have preferred the whole episode to be at night instead, since we have so few scenes at daytime. Back at the Hydro Island dock, Man in Black Locke announces to Claire that the submarine has sunk, but he can sense if people are dead or not. He can probably sense that Saeed, Jin and Sun died, but candidate 8, 15 and 23 survived. Man in Black Locke goes to finish what he started. And now let's go back to this Outrigger issue. Widmore and Zoe has probably taken the first Outrigger, the one they've used a lot in this season, and traveled to the barracks dock. So there is now one Outrigger on Hydra Island and the sailboat. The logical thing is that Man in Black Glock takes this Outrigger, which is the second Outrigger, mostly used by Man in Black Glock, and travels to the barracks dock the next morning. But then, how does the sailboat end up here at the cliffside cave? I like the idea that he could have summoned it there, but I'm not sure he has those powers anymore. Another theory is that Smokey can appear and disappear on Hydra Island without using an Outrigger, and simply has used an Outrigger wherever he's traveling with the others, such as Saeed and Jack, and then give Sawyer the false ID that he can't travel over water.
We're taking a boat ride over to the other island.
What do you need a boat for? Can't you just turn into smoke and fly your ass over the water?
Do you think if I could do that, I would still be on this island?
I also like this notion, since I also believed he did that same trick in the season 4 finale, appearing as Christian. He didn't use an Outrigger to get to the freighter and back. But then what's the point of him traveling with an Outrigger here? He's not with anyone. And if he's pissed and wants to see Ben, why bother use an Outrigger? Can't he just appear in the barracks? It could be that it is what he told Ben. He likes to feel human. So if he traveled with a sailboat to here, he could have transformed to Smokey, returned to Hydra Island, and then paddled with the Outrigger. Another theory I like is that he first took the sailboat and parked it here, and maybe he actually crossed off the names of Quan and Jara. Maybe he feels he has to do that, or maybe because Jack tossed him in the water, he might have delayed his smoke powers a little bit, as if he can turn into smoke for some minutes at a time before he's fully charged. Hence why he didn't turn into smoke in the candidate. Or maybe he parks the sailboat, discovers an Outrigger on the main island. This could be the fourth Outrigger, the OG Outrigger, the original one, which was last seen in 1988, and he uses that to travel to the barracks. Another theory is that he went directly to the Outrigger at Hydra Island and saved the sailboat for later. Maybe when he and Ben are walking to the well later that evening, he could tell him to wait for a minute and then he would go to Hydra Island to move the sailboat. This one seems very likely with the deleted scene of him and Claire that was originally going to take place in What They Died For.
I don't understand. Why can't we just leave?
Because of Jacob's precious candidates. He touched them. I can't leave the island while they're alive. Those are the rules.
Can't you just break the rules?
Do you think if I could break the rules, I would still be here? Come on, let's go.
Just please, I don't want to hurt anyone anymore. Wait, don't go.
If you're not going to help me, Claire, I need to find somebody who will.
Just don't leave me. Can you please just don't leave me?
But we're gonna explore that in a few weeks. Next week we're going into the island's history, and it's one of the episodes I've been looking forward to the most, Across the Sea. And we are treating it like the Hobbit movies. We're splitting it in 3 parts. It'll be the Sea Trilogy. Next week is the earliest history of the island. We're going billions of years back in time and we'll explore the fruition of the island. We're exploring the Light as well as Mother. Then the next week we're gonna break down Across the Sea, the episode. And then the 3rd episode will be the long time gap after Across the Sea and until the Black Rock crashes onto the island. I think that structure works the best. See you then.